Hey listener, welcome to 1000 Routes. I'm your host, Nick Bennett. In each episode, we explore the uncommon paths of solopreneurs who have bet on themselves and the reality of what it takes to build a business that serves your life. And if you want to change your own route, you can check out Full Stack Solopreneur, our 90-day group coaching program that has helped dozens build clear, compelling offers that you can market and sell with confidence. You can join now at fullstacksolo.com. That's fullstacksolo.com. Enjoy the episode. Elise Lemée, hello.
Hey.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
I had a lot of fun researching you for this because you have probably taken the most straight shot of anyone I know to solopreneurship. And it was a straight shot because you were dealt an interesting hand, right? You interned at a music venue, or I think it's a venue, right?
I
Or
did.
a music company.
I did both. So I did for a club, but then I also worked as an intern for a record label.
And then COVID happened, like basically a few months into that.
Yep. Right in the middle of it, basically.
And that kind of ends a lot of the whole go places and listen to music thing pretty quick. And then right from there, that was kind of like the moment for you, right? Let's just talk about that real quick. There's a lot that happened between COVID, ends live performances, and the stuff that you're trying to do getting out of college. And then all of a sudden, now you're a freelance writer. Talk me through that what was that like for you?
It was never the plan to become solopreneur, freelance, have my own business. Like growing up in school, I was like the most rigid rule follower. There was not a single entrepreneurial bone in my body. I was extremely doubtful and shy. I just like to write, and I just had these journals, and I was like, that's probably where it'll end. And then I went into music because I figured that if I had to do anything for the rest of my life, career-wise, music was pretty good because, who doesn't love it, right? Music school. So I worked my tail off to enter that industry, and I ended up getting that internship, and it was really important to stay there. And then COVID was like, no, maybe not. So
We have other plans for you.
Yeah, there's something else we're going to show you. So when that happened, after I had some time to lick my wounds a little bit, I thought of perhaps writing about music. Like I wanted to go into the digital marketing aspect of it, talk about maybe like different albums from my favorite artists. And I figured that writing could give me a way to show employers like, that I had original insights and ideas for it. And when I sat down to write about music, I was like, oh my God, I don't want to fucking do this. I actually wasn't interested in music like that at all. And when I wanted to write, it turned out that I was way more interested in like marketing in the sense of like entrepreneurship and like gurus and scams and like multi-level marketing schemes, like very weird things. But I was being pulled in a different direction of like what you're interested in to write, basically. So I was thinking about going in that different direction. Around that time, I stumbled on Medium, which is back in 2020 was huge, and found people who were like making a living writing, and not just writing books or being a journalist, but they were writing blog posts and newsletters. And I was like, what is this world? Like, wait, so you're telling me that people get paid to write and they can do it from home and they can make great money and they have like total independence? That sounds fucking awesome. Like, I want to do that. So I started by giving myself a miniature contract of write one article a week. I started publishing on Medium, and Medium had these individual publications. So I got posted or featured in The Startup and Better Marketing, The Ascent, all these like publications that had many writers. And then I found a freelance writing coach, and I ended up hiring her to help me learn the ropes of freelancing, how to price myself, how to email a client. Like even the word client to me back then sounded so fancy. I was like, I can't That's so adult. I'll never reach that level. But long story short, after working with my coach, she helped me land, I think it was like 2 or 3 clients. And within a couple months, I was fully booked. Crazy. Yeah.
And just like that. All right. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, that's it. Thanks for having me. We're done.
It's good to hear your story.
It's that easy, guys. Absolutely not.
Let's back up a bit though, because there's a part there where it wasn't just a straight shot to freelancing. Between when your internship wraps up and you're like, okay, this is going to be the thing. Like, did you apply for jobs? Like, what was the mindset? What were you trying to do? And then how did you end up deciding that this was what you were going to do?
Yeah, I mean, I was applying to jobs in music still. I remember reaching out to one of my old bosses asking for a reference or a referral because there was another position at BMG, and that quickly sputtered and died. It just wasn't leading anywhere promising. I was dreading LinkedIn. I didn't want to post or create any of these job applications. And when I had this kind of idea of like, okay, wait, maybe, writing, I see people on Medium making money, but like maybe I could just enter the industry and like, let me get the experience to write like the old fashioned way. Like, let me work with a company. And that was a huge dead end because my resume was only music and hospitality stints. It's nothing relevant, to show that I was committed to being a writer. So I got rejected from all of them, which totally so fair. But that's what pushed me to start doing it on my own, because I was like, well, fuck, if nobody's going to hire me, like, I can't just sit around here and wait for somebody to give me a chance. Like, I'm not going to get anything done otherwise. So
yeah. That's the mindset right there. I think that's the recipe, which is I can't just sit around and wait. I mean, that I feel that one. When I lost my job in 2023, I was like, there's 2,000 people applying to every job, like director of marketing, VP of marketing, or even marketing managers. Like there's 2,000 applicants on every job. I was like, I got to figure something else out. I have to be able to go out there and just go get it myself.
Yeah.
And not try to compete with 2,000 other people. So that resonates with me deeply of just saying, there's got to be a better way to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. It becomes like a survival mechanism, like both survival, but also kind of like, screw this. Like, I just cannot wait around any longer. Like, this is ridiculous. You and I and whoever else is listening probably feels similarly.
Yeah. All 7 people, they feel it.
But everybody feels it.
So how did you acquire your first clients? You said you hired this coach and this coach made a huge difference on you, just kind of showing you the ropes here. But how did you end up actually getting the first client to pay you to write something for them?
Yeah. So it's a funny story because the first client I ever got did not come through my coach. She helped me like close the sale, but they found me from an article on Medium that was published before I worked with my coach. And that article was about the breakaway movement, which, if you haven't heard of it, is a multi-level marketing scheme where they recruit specifically young white women to sell these $5,000 Japanese water filters. And they have these Instagrams that are very curated to freedom and health and like financial success. And it's basically like the Instagram makeover to the pyramid scheme. And I wrote about the fact that it was a scam and that there's very few winners and many losers in those kinds of businesses. And somebody reached out to me who actually like knew the founders or like the people who worked at that company. And I believe they circulated my piece amongst themselves, probably in anger, because I did get a few comments being like, you have no idea what you're talking about. I'm like, girl,
whatever.
Your machine says it like alkalizes water. What the fuck are you talking about? And why is it $5,000? Oh, anyways, so this guy found me. And like, to be fair, in the article, I think what stood out to him, why he wanted to connect with me, is because I did not hold back. I was like, this is liquid malarkey bullshit. And I think that he messaged me, and I remember him saying something along the lines of like, I've been looking for somebody with like your sense of humor, like your voice, which was a really, honestly, like a predictor for the writing I teach and preach by today. But he found me through that and was like, we're working on, I myself am like building my own business and we should talk. And that's how him and I got in a conversation. And I was terrified. And I asked my coach, like, okay, how much should I charge for this? And she goes, well, you should totally do like at least $250 an article. I was like, $250? Like, because, mind you, back at the time on Medium, I was making maybe like a couple dollars from every article, if that. 250 seemed crazy. And I remember when I told him over the phone, I was like, and the reason it's that price is because you're going to get X, you're going to get Y, like totally over explaining myself because I was so nervous. Anyways, thankfully, he, super nice guy, was like, yeah, cool, no problem. Wired me the money. And then that was that. And that was my first paying client.
The way that he got there through the MLM article is absolutely hilarious, that you took aim at this company and he was like, we need a writer that has that level of audacity. We need someone to talk shit on our behalf.
Yeah. To be fair, it wasn't his company. He just like knew the people whose company it was. Yeah, I don't know. The whole thing was like a little sus, but he was really nice and we ended up working together and it was a great experience to get started, like actually providing service.
That's fantastic. So from there though, like there's a lot between there, like your first client and now. And one of the things you invested a lot of time in was growing on Twitter. Back when Twitter was fun, or different kind of fun than it is today, depending on who you are. And you grew a big audience on Twitter. I think you're like 20 something thousand. That must have made a massive difference on the business as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially when building an audience online was like still people. I mean, there was a ton of people doing it, but it was in this space. And as a freelance writer, it was still relatively new. LinkedIn was still kind of taken off. People were still kind of skeptical about like, is LinkedIn really going to become a social network and stuff like that? So no one was really there yet. And Twitter was really the place that people were doing a lot of their writing and audience building.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did Twitter make a difference though? Like what kind of difference did Twitter make on your ability to acquire clients?
It was a huge part of my business. Yeah. It was interesting because like, how one of the parts, like that summer of 2020, when I started discovering Medium and like getting the momentum to be like, okay, like let's go for it. I contacted a reporter at Mashable, kind of just was like, hey, like, would you talk to me? I have a few questions, like pick her brain basically, which now I realize is very annoying, but she was very kind and provided some of her insights. And one of her first suggestions was you should get on Twitter. That's where all the writers are. So I did, and I had zero intention of growing on there. It was just to see what other people were doing. And I remember the first time I realized I could do something with this was I went to a free copywriting webinar, which there were so many of those at the time because like everybody's fucking locked inside. And one of the questions that was asked was like, how do I start copywriting with no experience? Like the classic catch-22 question. And I noticed that it was one of those questions in the webinar that was upvoted a lot. Everybody wanted to get the answer. And I kind of was like, oh, like maybe let me just like take this question and like turn it into a thread because like I was there and I can distill the learnings. And I posted it and it got like 7 likes. And I was like, whoa. 7 likes. I literally remember like opening my phone after dinner and seeing that. I was like, the first time ever, I was like, whoa, like there's actually people listening, even if it's just 7 fucking people. So that was when I was like, okay, like let's give it more gas. Let's try it out. And I started posting about the business, what was working, what wasn't. I was also babysitting at the time and trying to quit babysitting. I was attending more copywriting webinars. I was reading a lot of books about writing, and I was just basically distilling everything that I was learning. I didn't position myself as an expert. I mean, I had just started freelancing. But another thing that I did as well to like kind of prove that experience was there's a lot of content specifically from David Perel and Jack Butcher and this other marketer, Matthew Kobosh, I believe. And Matthew and David created a YouTube video titled How to Crush It on Twitter. It was like an hour and a half long. And I watched the whole thing and I distilled it in Notion. And then I uploaded it onto Twitter. I was like, hey, like, you might not have 90 minutes to watch this. So here is a document with everything you need to know. And it went super viral. David retweeted it. Matthew retweeted it. I got Jack Butcher as a client. Well, he hired me for like 2 pieces based on that because he wanted me to do something similar for like his podcast. And then it just like kept snowballing. People kept being like, hey, like, do you have any writing services? The CEO of Unsplash reached out to me and was like, you should apply to this position. And not even like 4 months ago, I couldn't get a single response on LinkedIn or like any job. So that was a literal 0 to 180 twist or turn. It changed my life. Yeah, it was crazy.
That is insane. So one Twitter thread was the thing that really launched the whole, that really, where the rubber met the road for you.
Yeah, I was thinking it was like the first, because like you always see that kind of stuff of like, I don't know, you could see somebody like doing really well on social media. You're like a lurker and you think to yourself, well, that can't happen to me. Like, I'm just not interesting enough. You know, I was like 22, 23. I'm like, nobody will listen to me. And then something happens and you're like, wait, actually, maybe they will. And yeah, changes everything.
This is a thing that most people don't think about when it comes to content creation and how you can use it to build your business. Like most people are trying to be in the, like, how do I expert all over the internet? And you were like, what if I just curate this information? First of all, what was the motivation? Like you were just like, I need to take notes while I watch this video. And then you did it and you were like, these notes seem to be pretty decent. Let's see if other people would like it. Is that basically what happened?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think when I went into watching the video, I was like, I want to make something for other people. There was kind of like that growth driven incentive. It wasn't kind of like, oh, you know, like just had an idea. I was like, no, like, let's do this.
And when was this exactly? Like what year? Like when was this?
I want to say that Notion post, the one that like really got the flywheel turning was like November 2020, I want to say.
Oh, wow. So pretty early on. You went from 7 likes to that.
Yeah.
And Jack Butcher's dope. I love Visualize Value. I think his whole platform is sweet. I've taken some of his courses and I've seen a ton of his work. Yeah. So that is really awesome. It reminds me a lot of Eric Jacobson. He's the guy who runs the company Hatch. And he was like, he talks about how he did something similar where he put together some sort of marketing plan and was like, I just want to get Tim Ferriss as a client. So I'm butchering his own story, but it's a similar thing where he like went on Twitter and was basically like, here's a thing, and got Tim Ferriss's attention and led to like a $10,000 deal with him to help him produce a show or do something related to his show. So it's like, it's incredibly powerful stuff. And I think it's amazing to see how you used curation. It wasn't even just like, here are all these expert insights. Look at me, expert, look at me go. Mm-hmm. It's just straight curation. And it still can make a massive difference.
100%.
Have you done more of that since then where you're like, I need to distill everything? I would be furiously distilling YouTube videos after that.
Furiously distilling. I mean, that was kind of like how I got the first start. I will say too, I joined Ship 30 for 30 in January 2021. And writing those essays was also a huge driver in my growth, for sure. I got a lot of momentum from doing that. And then through posting those essays, I did the full 30 days. I didn't miss a single day, which I'm proud of for that. Through that, somehow this got the attention of Julian. I don't know what his last name is. Julian, he like writes these really in-depth guides. He's big on Twitter. He's a VC, I believe. And he reposted me and was like, oh, Elise Lemée writes like these awesome essays. Like a 23-year-old girl. Like, what? But he did. And that led me like 5,000 followers overnight, which was bananas. From there, that got the attention of David Perel, who asked if I was interested in applying to Rite of Passage. And I ended up getting a scholarship to do cohort 6, if I remember correctly. So that was all the power of Twitter. I started taking it seriously in like October, and by March, all of that had happened. Yeah.
Were you in the original Shift 30 cohort when it was just like a Slack channel?
No, I don't think so. I think the January 2021 was a bit more robust. Yeah, but there was calls and stuff. Yeah.
Because you're still their testimonial on their website.
Which is great. But yeah, back in the time, it was like super helpful to a beginner like me.
I mean, I took it in January of 23 or something like that. And it was really helpful for me because I had been trying to hack it together. But so it was really helpful to get started. But I think it's funny that all these years later, they're still rocking your testimonial as like their number one. It's like right at the top of the page. So this is fantastic, though. I think there's so much here that's like little win after little win. It's like you go from 7 likes to a viral thread that curates other helpful information. And then all you're doing is people are able to see this and go, oh, I could use someone like that to help me do the thing. So you end up starting to acquire clients. Then what happens?
It was interesting because I was able to accelerate really fast. Like I was able to start building this audience. I started getting these clients. And then the ebbs and flows of freelancing started. Because if there's anything a freelancer or solopreneur will tell you is that there is no such thing as just like everything is amazing. It just goes up and up and up. Like shit hits the fan fast. And in particular, like around the same time when I started Rite of Passage, there was something that happened. I had 3 or 4 clients at a time. One of them disappeared. Another one went in-house and like something happened to another one. And anyways, I went from like 5,000 a month to 0 within a week. And that was painful for sure. And it was like my first taste of this is like, you're not out of the woods. There's no such thing as like, okay, I have clients and now like my work here is done. It was never ending. Like it was a wake up call. For sure. And I was able to, get the ball rolling again. But, ever since I started freelancing in 2020, like it's constant ebb and flows, changes, client pivots, and we can get more into that. But I think, so what happened was just like kind of the reality of like the business. And even you can go viral on Twitter, you can grow an audience. That doesn't hide the fact that, having a business is a completely different thing. And your success is not dependent on how many likes you get.
I always tell people like deals over dopamine. Like if you get like likes do not pay the bills as much as the likes feel good. I mean, the likes can help you get some deals potentially, but it is not money in the bank. Somewhere along the way, you said you start acquiring bigger and bigger clients. Like, well, I know someone you've worked with is Kat Norton, Miss Excel. And you've been with her for a while. And one of the cool things I know about your time with her is like building her newsletter to what is now, I think, 350,000 subscribers, which is like insane
300
within itself. So first of all, what were they at when you got there?
Yeah. I mean, I think it would make sense to also kind of just like show how I even got that opportunity. Like it was, I think, November 2021. And I was still like, okay, like let's keep reaching out to people. And I reached out to Colin and Samir a few times, and that email, like I think I sent like 3 emails, no response. I was like, all right, it isn't meant to be. And one of the people on their team forwarded me to someone named Josh Kaplan, who's the CEO of Smooth Media. Josh and I got on the phone. It was a really awesome, like lovely conversation. And then I didn't hear from him again until like April of 2022. And he was like, hey, like we have an exciting opportunity. You might be a good fit. Do you want to learn more? And it was for Miss Excel, Kat Norton's newsletter. I did a paid test for them and it went well. And I was able to get that opportunity, which was essentially like build her newsletter from 0. She was collecting emails through her business. So we started at like 50. Now, 3-something years later, we're at 392,000. But the most important thing, like for me out of that experience is like, it really boils down to like putting yourself out there, who you know. Like I do not doubt that if Josh had posted Miss Excel's newsletter opportunity on LinkedIn, it would have been flooded, hundreds and hundreds of people asking like to do it. But having a network, putting yourself out there meant that you can essentially like skip the line and you don't have to compete. So that's why like it's just so important to invest in like the people that you know, not in a like social climbing way, but it's just the way of like people want to hire people that they know. Like hiring people takes so much time. It's a lot of errors and doubts. And it's just like a pain in the ass as somebody who's also hired subcontractors. If you can find somebody refers to you, who you already know, who can like just make that process seamless, like you're going to be incentivized to do that.
Well, we're all in the relationship business,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you're providing a service, traffic is great. Traffic helps you start new relationships, but at the end of the day, we're all in the relationship business. What do you think it was about you that made Josh think of you when that opportunity came through? Because you said you hadn't heard from him for like 6 months or something.
Yeah, I can't speak for Josh. Perhaps something that helped was I had started working with Matt Diabella on his newsletter at the time, Snail Mail. So that was an opportunity that came to me also through somebody on his team who Matt was going to start a newsletter about like minimalism and personal development. And I was posting a lot about those things on Twitter. And this person was following me on Twitter and was like, hey, like Elise could be a good match for this. So he reached out to me and I was able to like publicly say like, hey, I started working with Matt. We like launched this newsletter together. So that was kind of like my first maybe claim to like, hey, like I can do this. I've done it with somebody before. So that might have influenced Josh to be like, okay, like let's take a bet on her. And
people with influence trust me.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, maybe, probably.
Well, I think it's wild because thinking about growing. I mean, first of all, Kat is like a content marketing machine.
Yes,
she puts out a boatload of content, and she does fantastic work. So it's like she's driving a lot of the traffic, but the newsletter also is good, which is why people don't just immediately unsubscribe from the thing. That's how you get to 392. The thing that comes to mind is someone to be trusted with a list of 392,000 people. That's like a crazy thought. Yeah. And I don't know many people who trust many people with a list of that size. I don't know many people who have a list that size. But the people who have a larger list, like it's a sensitive thing. And I think that just says a lot about, I'm serious, like we're laughing about it, but I'm serious. Like it feels like the stakes are very high when the numbers are that big. And for someone to take a chance or like to grow a publication of that size is pretty incredible. And for people to trust someone with that, like who's not, like for someone to let go of that, it's just pretty wild.
Yeah, I try not to think about it too much because if I know hundreds of thousands of people, I will get scared and not be able to write or go into Beehive and like help schedule. I always have nightmares about like unintentionally scheduling something that's like not ready.
Like the wrong email, like here's something, you're like, oh no.
Oh my God, like there was one time for another client, I sent her email like 6 hours earlier because I was in Europe and I like fucked up the time zones. And I was devastatingly stressed. It ended up being fine. But all this to say, like, yeah, when you think about it, it's a little intimidating for sure. But
yeah. So you do this work with Kat. This is fantastic. You've worked with some other fantastic creators. Like, it's crazy to think that you're sitting here wondering, like opening your phone going, holy shit, I got 7 likes, to sending an email to 392,000 people, almost 4.5 years later.
I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah, it's actually so crazy. But yes.
So now you're on LinkedIn, you're building up there. And then you also have Internetly, which I'm a huge fan of Internetly. I appreciate the musings. What was your motivation to start that newsletter, and just what's your thought process behind that?
Yeah, I mean, newsletter, the Internetly has gone through many phases as the years have gone on. I first launched it in, I want to say March 2021, right as I was doing Rite of Passage, cohort 6. David said something that really helped me like get the shove to do it. He was like, it's like a postcard. You just like let people know what you're up to. And if they want to, kind of see what's going on with you. And I gave my boyfriend $150. And I was like, if I don't publish this, I don't write the first edition, like keep the money. And it worked because I published it.
Wow, the things we'll do for accountability.
Literally, I was like, it just has to be. Like, I didn't trust myself otherwise. So I did it. And
now we know how much the newsletter's worth to you.
Yeah.
At least the first edition was $150.
Yeah. And it looked so different back then. I mean, it was like very structured. It was like freelancing to content curation and like what I'm up to. But I think at the time, I was very diligent about once per week. And I'm very grateful for that because it allowed me to like, there's two types of writing that most solopreneurs or creators, freelancers, whatever do. They will do like the client side where you're writing like a website copy or a client's newsletter, you're ghostwriting. And then there's your own personal writing where you're allowed to be creative and like use curse words and, you know, like draw on your own personal experience. And it's really important to flex both of those muscles because if you only do one or the other, like if you are in client mode all day, it's really hard to then like show up on a platform like LinkedIn and not sound like your client. You have to be able to like tap into your own voice. So that's what the newsletter was for at the beginning. And it's a slow burn. It's a really slow burn. Like I never really saw it as like an aggressive growth acquisition channel. I really saw it as like a sandbox to practice and forge deeper connections with people. And yeah, it's evolved a lot. And now it's like kind of a mixture of personal experience and stories and essays that have nothing to do with freelancing or writing, like essays on heartbreak or traveling, and then essays about like other ideas such as creator gravity that I explored. Now we're at 4,100, which is like baby numbers, but still I'm like, you know, at least I've had that newsletter since March 2021 and she's still going. And that's all that matters.
She's still going.
She's still going.
Well, so this inflection point of like going from just freelancer, like you were the freelancer's freelancer at one point where you talked a lot about freelancing and just your personal experiences there. You provided a lot of your content's around a lot of freelancing tips, and just digital nomading was also a big thing for you for a while. Like you were on the move. I think there was like a point where you were like in Bali for an extended period of time, and
Yes.
like you were just living on the go. How did you decide to do that? Because I think that's something that we romanticize, this idea of being a digital nomad. But I heard you also talk about how exhausting it can be to always live out of a suitcase. So like talk through that experience for you.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I started freelancing partly to be able to do that. Like that was a huge driver in building what I had because I wanted to explore the world. Like I wanted to work remotely and see all these beautiful places. And I was fortunate to pull it off. And I was able to go to all these amazing countries. And then slowly but surely, as you get older and your prefrontal cortex develops, things start to shift. First off, you reach a point where you're like, I can't be doing the bunk beds anymore in hostels. It's not possible. Like, no more. You also start to, you know, just crave deeper relationships. You meet a lot of people and they're amazing, but you aren't really forming deep connections because you're constantly on the go. And then especially in terms of like building a business and making it successful, it really matters to have a routine, have stability, be surrounded by people who motivate you. Like I think about my time in Bali last year and now, and since then I've like doubled my income monthly. And I'm like, that's not an accident. No way. Like I think it is 100% because I left. And even though I adored Bali and I'm sure there's some very motivated people there, I was like, I'm not going to get shit done if I stay here. It's too hot. The beach is too close. Everything is like affordable so that you don't really have this drive of like, okay, like let me work really hard. It's very easy to like get in this like tropical vacation mindset. So I was like, I'm not strong enough. And there were other reasons too, of course, why I decided to leave, which I wrote about. But yes, that's it in a nutshell. And I came back to New York last summer and have still traveled, but now I'm like definitely slowing it down a lot, which has been interesting.
There's a lot to be said for, like you said, the planting some roots and digging in a little bit. I'm very much a comforts of home person, so
Yes.
like I'm good for a vacation, but digital nomad's probably out of the cards for me. It's also tough. We have two little tiny humans that rule your life. You can't quite just, maybe that's an excuse. I don't know. People do it, I guess. But the whole point is like, I totally get why you're like, time to build some longer term relationships because it's hard to do that when you're moving from place to place. Yeah. Even if you're in the same city for a while, but you're going from house to house or something. So I totally get that. When we first met, you would come back pretty recently and then you were like you were in this interesting place. I want you to talk through this idea of like, you were in this place in your business where you were like, there's not that you were maxed out freelancing, but
Yeah.
I think you had a sense where there was something else or something more that you wanted to do.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's why, you and I met, because it's interesting. Like, it kind of goes back to what I say about why it's so important to like journal, as woo-woo as that sounds, is like, you need to understand like what it is you're thinking, the blocks that you have, and your dissatisfaction. And it wasn't until I did a like annual review that I was like, wait, I asked myself the question, like, okay, like let's picture myself a year from now. If I'm in the same position, nothing changes. Am I satisfied or am I sad? And I thought, no, I would be sad. And I think that I would be sad because I want to do more than what I'm doing. I feel like I could make a bigger impact. So for context, like at the time what I was doing is, I've been freelancing and writing for 4 years. I had newsletter clients and I had like the occasional like one-off case study and like ghostwriting stuff, but I felt like I was like, I'm not seeing the impact that I want to have on like a closer scale. And I want to have more of like a creator business where I'm like more involved in things that I'm putting out there. And yeah, it was just like a big realization because freelancing for so long, as you mentioned, like was the identity that I had. I was like the freelancer's freelancer and sharing all these tips on Twitter and LinkedIn. And then one morning you wake up and you're like, fuck this. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I don't want to be known for this. I love to write still, but there's something about writing for clients in all hours of the day that's very soul training because it's not your writing ultimately. So yeah, when we started working together, I wasn't really sure what to do, but I can say now, like, what has it been, like 7-8 months later, something like that? It's been a big change in a really good way. I'm now doing more coaching, obviously. Well, I'm not doing more. I started coaching. And then additionally, now I'm working on some projects that are like there's more strategy involved where it's like, well, what do you think we should do? You've been in the newsletter game for a long time. Let's test things out. Let's invite you to the conversation. And that has been really gratifying because instead of just being the writer that's like taking orders of like, what do you want to write about? You come in with a strategy, you're more respected. And of course you can command higher rates, which is always a bonus.
Yeah. More money is better than less money.
Yes.
100% of the time.
100%.
One of the things about your progression, like through freelancing and into coaching, is the mess that is doing this work. Mm-hmm. And I think the coaching stuff really gained the traction that we were looking for when creator gravity snapped into place for you. That was like this really big light bulb moment because it took it from here is writing coaching to here is a entirely new lens on building a creative business. Mm-hmm. And I remember the day where you said it, you were like, it's kind of like they have this gravity to them. And we were like, that's the thing. And then you immediately went and narrated it and you wrote that first Substack or that first internetly newsletter on Substack. You said, what the fuck is creator gravity? Yeah. And the response was insane. And I think there was this like, I don't know, there was like a change in you and there was a change in kind of the whole idea of it, which went from this is the thing I could do to like, this is it. What was that like for you?
Yeah. First of all, it was a fucking relief, right? Because like I was freelancing, I still am, but along that time I would see other creators come on the scene. I saw Erica come on the scene and Jay, Klaus, and Kieran Drew, like all these really like incredible creators. And some of them started later than me and they like found success sooner. And I was like, something is like not, I'm like, what am I like? I don't really know what I want. I don't really know what I'm doing. Like, yeah, I'm making, like some kind of progress, but like these people are like really taking off. And it's like, I'm like, what am I missing? Ironically, creator gravity kind of like answers that question, both because it was the solution of what I was looking for, and two, because those people all have gravity. So it's like two birds, one stone. But what it was one, obviously a relief. And two, it's kind of scary, and it still is, because now there's this idea or like this pressure of like, okay, like let's rip it. Let's talk about it. Let's publish a series about it. Let's coach people about it. And, I think so too. It's worth stating that like, even though I've had years of experience working with these creators, the imposter syndrome is still really strong, because you're like, wait, I just coined this. Like, I'm still figuring it out alongside everybody. Like, I'm exploring this together. I'll post about it. And sometimes people will be like, I disagree, or have you considered this? And I'm like, yeah, I'm taking you into account. I'm creating this alongside you. So it's both relief, because you're like, okay, like I'm not pretending to be the almighty guru, but at the same time, there's pressure, and you have to have conviction of like, I believe in this. This is, my theory. Let's go. Yeah.
There's a lot to be said for, and we said this, there's people who expert all over the internet all the time. And then there's people who are like, hey, I'm trying to figure this thing out. Come with me. Well, come with me as I explore this idea. We're not at the top of the mountain yet, but we're getting there, and we're trying to figure it out. I think that's something that also is why creator gravity as an idea has some gravity to it, is that people want to know how the story ends, but like they want to know how this thing kind of all comes together, because it is an entirely new idea, or it's an entire new lens on how you see successful creators creating success. Right. One of the things, it's not like this stuff is made up either. One of the things that you did was you looked at all the creators, and you write about this in the series. You look at all the creators and you go, what is it about them? What's the through line? Why do all of them have this type of success that they have? I think where I'm going here is trying to discern certain things and pattern match. Like that's really where a lot of the success, where people are going to find success in being able to also help other people achieve something themselves.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, pushing the edges of your thinking.
We talk a lot about the easy thinking.
Yeah.
There's a level of easy thinking that takes place when you're figuring something out, and some of those things click in quite fast, right? And then there's a boundary that you end up hitting where you're like, why is this so much harder? Why is this one or this element of this feel like I'm going to smash my head through a brick wall versus the first part that was just flowed from my fingertips into the keyboard?
No good answer. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But there's different types of hard when you're writing and thinking through something, right? There's like the first hard because you are posturing and you're pretending to be somebody that you're not. And then there's the second hard that is you actually don't know what you're trying to say. And that requires more back and forth, more writing, deleting, editing, having a conversation, crying, spiraling, getting back into it. Part of it.
I'm a pro spiraler. So I feel you there. Pro at spiraling. You're like, no, this is trash. Command A, delete.
Yeah.
Well, I think the idea of creator gravity is fantastic because it is a thing that I think you'll be able to write about it for a long time. And I think when people see stuff like that, they go, I don't understand. Like, how do people come up with these great things and not me? Like, why not me? And you've even talked about this idea of like people want to be able to name their thing in a way or come up with their own thing, like and say like, look at it, here it is with a neat little bow on it with a fancy name. And that didn't come without aerating ideas publicly. Like you write a lot publicly that would otherwise feel rather not aimless, but it is not necessarily plugged into a premise that you're trying to develop.
Yeah. 100%. I think that's also like a part of it that people don't see too. Like, I think about how the algorithm works, and maybe there's somebody who's just like scrolling on LinkedIn and then they see my post on Creator Gravity. They're like, who's Elise? How did she oh my God, like, she was able to come up with this. Like, why can't I come up with this? Like, she's, like this overnight person on my algorithm. I'm like, so much shit went into that. Like, I tried coming up with terms and ideas for over 4 years, and Creator Gravity will not be the last one. There will be many more. Like, there's a lot of fails. There was a lot of posts that were crickets. There were a lot of things that flopped. Like, it takes so much time. And like you and I have had hours and hours of conversation. Like I literally send you voice memos of me just yapping anxiously. I was like, what the fuck am I trying to say? Like all of that mess, all of those efforts, all of those fails, like that's what you don't see that went behind that. And now like the work's not done. Okay, like I've named it. But then, as you know, like writing the most current piece about it, about, okay, like what's the framework? Let's say you already have Gravity, you've posted for a year, you have 5,000 followers, something's missing. How do you amplify it? And then, like, okay, like I think about it, I'm like, fuck, okay, let's think about it. So I go through it and then I talk to you and then I'm like, actually, that doesn't work. It's been 55 days since I started writing that piece. And I am just now like about.
No one's counting.
No one's counting but me. So that's all I'm saying is like, it's just a lot of work. And like anybody listening can do it, but just like make no mistake, like buckle up. It takes time, which is okay. It takes time. It should take time,
I want to emphasize the commitment to the craft of this though, because I see a lot of people who post and get crickets, or they post and they just get 7 likes and they go, it only got 7 likes. And you're like, you should be thrilled over your 7 likes, because the commitment to the craft is where you're going to push through all of the easy thinking. You're going to push through all of the half-baked ideas, and you're not going to see it in the moment that you're creating the thing, that it will soon become the thing. Like if you go back and look at your writing, I think there's a lot of nuggets throughout that has become the scaffolding of what creator gravity is today. And the only way that happens is by aerating all of these different ideas along the way.
100%. I always say creation is never a sum zero game. Like if you post something and it fails, you still get the experience of writing, copywriting. If you still get like 0 likes, you now have a signal like, okay, that didn't work. Why? There's always something you can take from it. So the biggest mistake is if you are just like, I suck at this. It's not meant for me. Bye. I'm like, no, you can make it work. Just like work with it. Learn from it.
Getting bogged down to some of the metrics too. Like people will see it got 50 impressions. Go into a room of 50 people. This is like a very classic analogy, but it's so true. Go step into a room of 50 people and read it. If you got to read your post to 50 people, you'd be like, well, there's a lot of people here.
That's a lot of, 100%. It's all perspective.
There's very many people. I feel very nervous for all of these people to see this thing that I've created. And you're upset about it because our minds have been warped by the algorithm and the people who are like, I did 17 million impressions in the last week. Here's how I did it.
Yep.
It's like, great, good for you. But that's like, these are anomalies. The normal people don't do that stuff. You don't need that.
No, totally.
So, all right, Elise, looking back, what's something you would have done differently?
Oh gosh. I'm like, I would have worked with you sooner.
All right. This isn't about me, by the way. So but I appreciate that.
No, for sure. I do mean that. But I'm trying to think of like something I would have done differently. Gosh, I think, Nick, I feel a little bad that I can't come up with like a definite answer. Because a lot of times I look back on everything, I'm like, it kind of had to unfold the way that it did to get to where I am today. I would say if there's one thing I would have done differently, it's like I had that realization last New Year, like the 2024, where I was like, I don't really want to be a freelance writer anymore. I want to change. I feel like I'm meant for more. And I wish I hadn't waited until like 7 months later to acknowledge it. It would have saved me a lot of time to just have been like more steadfast and like opening other revenue streams and trying new things. I think I was just very afraid to let go of that freelancer identity that I worked so hard at building on Twitter and LinkedIn. So yeah, I think my lesson is like, if you want to pivot, if you don't feel that identity anymore, do it. You're not a bad person or a failure for wanting to make a change. And I needed to hear that back then.
I wonder why we feel the need for permission to make that type of change. Like there's something about what we're doing that's so deeply rooted in our identity. Like for you to feel like you were giving up freelance writing for something you worked so hard for, for something else. It's interesting because on the outside, it's like, just change the thing, right? People look at you and they're like, why are you agonizing over this? At least just change the thing.
Yeah. And you're like, it's not that simple.
You have no idea. There was this Twitter thread and then all this, like there was this YouTube video about Twitter and then I distilled it. Like, you don't understand. There's so much there's years of agony in this one idea.
Mm-hmm. No,
but
100%.
Yeah, I mean, if the thing is if it doesn't serve you or it's not serving you, it is tough to pivot. And it feels like the question in my mind is always, is this a distraction? Because once things start really gaining traction and things feel like they're starting to take off and you're like, is this other thing just a shiny object? Do I want to do this because I'm getting bored, but I'm really actually just about to start, things are just about to start getting good?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to know.
Yeah, it's true. It's a distraction for sure.
All right, Elise, let's end here. What do you want to build that you haven't built yet? What's next for you?
The creator gravity cohort is what's next. We're going to do
Hell
it.
yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Good.
First, I have to publish this fucking article. I'm close. I'm almost done. Once I do that and then write about monetization, I feel like I'll have the framework and then we're just going to rip it, try it, small group, discounted price. And if I know it's the right thing to do because it scares me and I'm like, all right, then let's feel the fear and do it anyways, you know?
Hell yeah. I'm so glad you said that. I was hoping you were going to say that because I've been pushing you to do it for a while. So that's good. I think the creator gravity cohort is exactly what is needed. I think that's what the people need. So I'm glad that you've publicly committed to it. You've publicly planted your flag. This is a public declaration that you will do this. I'm excited. I'm really excited for that. Well, thank you, Elise.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, of course. Anytime. My pleasure.
I know more people feel seen on their own route because of you. So thank you for coming and hanging out with me today. I very much appreciate it.
Yes, of course. Anytime. Okay. Always a pleasure.
Hey, it's Nick. Thanks for listening. If you want to take part in amazing conversations like these, then you need to check out Full Stack Solopreneur, where you'll get access to bi-weekly group coaching clinics, guest mini courses from legendary solopreneurs like Morgan Ingram and Max Trailer, and so much more. You can join right now at fullstacksolo.com. That's fullstack, SOLO.com. If you were to leave Earth tonight on a rocket ship, let's say you end up on Pluto. Mm-hmm. You have to inhabit Pluto. What would be your last meal here?
Ooh, probably Sichuan food. Like just classic peppercorn, just like all the good things. I don't know if you ever had Sichuan before, but it is a life-changing experience.
All I heard was peppercorn, and I was like, you just want to eat peppercorn? What is this meal?
Like this, it's Sichuan Chinese food. It's like,
oh yeah,
it's just awesome.
Yeah, get a nice crispy Szechuan beef. I'm in.
Yes, that or hot.
Okay.
Also, I
didn't hear the Szechuan part, and I was like, she just wants to eat peppercorns.
Yeah. Fun fact about me is like just always have peppercorns on it.
Yeah, and I'm willing to use it as my last meal here if I have to. Like I will. That will be it if necessary.
Yes.
I like it. I used to live across the street from a restaurant that was literally called Asian Restaurant.
To the point. They are not wasting time.
Yeah. I mean, they get potentially there's a lot of kinds of Asian food.
Fair.
So you never really know, but I'm telling you, they made the best crispy Szechuan beef on the planet.
Now you're gonna make me hungry.